I'd like to thank the office bearers of the church for their very kind invitation to me this evening, and also to my wife. I've known Edwin for quite some time, and I actually forgot my glasses, and I was at the airport whenever I remembered. So if I make some errors, you'll understand. And a number of things that I want to say. I've been asked to speak for about 10 to 15 minutes, and that means that I will say something about Edwin, and then maybe have a word or two from the scriptures, which is always very appropriate. I went to the Irish Baptist College the other day, and I asked the director, could he give me a bit of information about my reference that I made to the college some years ago. And I discovered a letter that is dated in June, 7th of June 1983, and I wanted that for this reason, that whenever one writes a reference or whatever they are now, CV or something like that, it's the more modern concept, that you want to reflect and you want to see how your reference has gone, if it has been factual, very important. And I'll read some extracts from the reference. Some of it will be omitted. Family, because I pay tribute to Edwin's family, to his mum and dad and others in that reference, and I will omit those references, and I think you will understand why. So I'll just read some of these references and then refer to one or two things about Edwin. After an introduction about the man, I wrote this. Conversations with Edwin revealed to me certain things. His Christian character is impeccable. He sets an excellent example to others in good behavior and shows stability in every way. His ethics are superb. If I were asked to produce a living example of effective practical Christianity, I would immediately exhibit the life of Edwin Ewart. His gifts for Christian service are exciting. If a church approached me about the suitability of Edwin for the pastor even now before his college training, I would not have the slightest hesitation in recommending him. He is a most thoughtful preacher, prepares very well. It is a preparation of heart as well as a preparation of sermon material. Edwin has preached a number of times in his home church at the Sunday services. Reports received from members have always been of the highest order, and they show a genuine appreciation of his helpful ministry. His talks to children are always fresh and much talked about for weeks afterwards. We invited him to become youth leader, which he did, and he proved ideal in this responsible position. He had the genuine respect of the young people and provided a varied program which showed he had put great effort and thought into his preparation. His work as a Sunday school teacher is a work that he has undertaken and has done it very, very well indeed. And then I go on to say that the local church set him apart to perform the work of deacon some time ago, and in this office he showed himself as mature beyond his years. His home life has been exemplary in every way. He keeps very little hidden from his parents, and relationships at home, they've been excellent. His reliability is beyond dispute. There's nothing arrogant about him, and he reacts favourably to advice or correction. This young man has read widely and has a commendable aptitude for study. He is a frequent visitor to our home, and we have found him to be a good mixer. He was always showing the utmost courtesy and is genuinely appreciative of anything that's done for him. I've discovered that he makes friends easily with the unconverted, even though his close friends are those of like faith. The Lord has gifted him with a very good debating manner, and he is very able to think a matter through before arriving at a personal opinion. I conclude, trying to be honest, I must record that I have discovered no weakness in Edwin. To my knowledge, he is an excellent student of God's Word, and I predict a bright future in Christian service for him. I most heartily and without reservation recommend him to the college. The members of my family have received much blessing through Edwin, and I cannot testify too highly concerning his character and ability. I wrote that in 7th of June 1983, and as I come here this evening, I have absolutely no reason for any correction, any amendment, save to ask to add a little more commendation. And so it's a joy for me to be here. Edwin was a frequent visitor to our home. Every Saturday morning he was up. I accused him many times of corrupting our son, but that was a joke. He has been a great influence, and his wife has been a tremendous support to him. And we thank God for his ministry. As I was considering what I should say this evening, I thought that this church here, Abbey Street, has always had a very vital connection with the college. Mr. Freeman, J.W.D. Freeman, I don't think many remember him here now. Archie Duff Stevenson and W.J. Rowell, all different characters, very different characters. And whenever the vacancy occurred here, when John Hansford had gone to Milltown, I was talking with Danny McIntyre, going to some committee meetings, and we talked together. I said, Edwin Ewart from the Tab would make you a good pastor, and he has done that. And we're very glad for that. One of the things that I would say, I'm doing the Bible studies in Hill Street Baptist and Ballymena on Tuesday evenings, alternating with Val English there, and we're studying Barnabas. And one of the things about Barnabas, it used to be Barnabas and Paul, and then midway through the book of Acts, it was Paul and Barnabas. The man Barnabas had started to play second fiddle, and I'm glad to be able to play second fiddle to Edwin in so many ways today. And it's good that the Lord has so led him, and I believe that he will make an excellent assistant principal of our college, and that the Lord will lead him and guide him. He is a young man. He comes from an excellent background. It's so good to see his mum with us this evening, and also Alison's mum and dad. I've known the Ewart family for many years. I don't like to refer to this, but he has some of the characteristics of his late father. Whenever we walked along Kirk Avenue in Magherafelt, we always saw that the car outside was absolutely perfect. Not a stain on the car. The cleanest car in Magherafelt. And I think that Edwin's shaking his head. Well, I think now that he has the cleanest car also. It's very interesting things that happen. One thing I don't understand, and those who know Edwin and know me will not understand either. Edwin was preaching at a service some years ago, and one of our pastors who didn't know the stable from which the young man came nudged his neighbour. He says, I know where that boy was brought up. That's one of Smyth's men. Well now, I don't see any of myself in Edwin actually. I see different characteristics, and thank God for that. But any input that we have had to his life has been a great privilege. And as a family, we're grateful for the fellowship. I often say that our Magherafelt days were tremendous days in the youth fellowship. So many of the members of the youth fellowship are now devoted in service to the Lord, some full-time, others not so, and we're very pleased about that. And we trust that Edwin and Alison will know the blessing of God in years to come. It is a break for them. And we need to pray that in one sense he will miss the pastoral input. College life is different. The pastoral input, day by day, visiting homes, is something very special. It's not just something very ordinary, it's very special. And I know that he will miss that, the day-to-day contact with the rank and file of church life. He'll be dealing with a different kind of person now, perhaps, those who are going into missionary work and those who are going into pastoral or evangelistic work. It's good to see gifts developing in a young person. And I know that Magherafelt Church, from which our brother Edwin has come, are very thankful to God and are pleased with what is happening this evening. And so we trust that the Lord will bless our brother and sister. It'll also bless Alison as she enters a new phase of life now. It will be for her a new phase. And sometimes, especially as you get older, well, she's not very old yet, but as you get older, it's more difficult. Edwin's nudging her there. So anyhow, I don't know what he's telling her, whether he says she's getting older or getting younger. I'll say getting younger. Okay, but it will be a different phase of life for her, and we trust the Lord will bless them in days to come. Now, I was asked to say something from the Scriptures, and that is very, very difficult indeed, knowing exactly what to say on an occasion such as this. And I want to just quote one verse. It's from the New King James. It's Psalm 37. In Psalm number 37, and in verse 23, we have these words. The psalmist writes, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way." The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. You'll discover in Psalm 37 that there's a series of contrasts or comparisons. The psalmist talks about the ungodly, identifies them as wicked, identifies them as evildoers, and then he talks about the godly, and he describes them, of course, in a different way altogether. He says that they're righteous, that they wait upon the Lord. And then he comes to this verse, verse 23, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord." And you'll notice in a footnote in the NIV, some interesting truths about this particular statement here. But I want to say two things, and I think they concern Edwin and Alison especially. In a rather more remote stance, they concern the church here. I want to say just two things. First of all, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. And the first thing that one is able to say, that the Lord directs. The Lord directs. The steps of a good man. It was George Mueller, I think, who suggested, and he's often quoted, not just the steps of a good man, but the stops of a good man. When things are at a standstill, it's of the Lord. But it says here that the steps of a good man, and it's not the good man running or the good man leaping. It's the steps of a good man. And I think that's very important to realize that. I was thinking of the hymn writer. We can commend his words, if not the author. He wrote this, "I want to see the distant scene." And then he says, "One step, enough for me." And that's how the Lord directs, step by step, opening up the way before us. I don't think that Edwin ever thought, whenever he was at the Rainy School in Magherafelt and when he was in the youth fellowship there, that it would come to this stage in life. The grace of God is a most wonderful thing. There's a great testimony given by the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 10. It says this, it says, "By the grace of God I am what I am." It says, "I was in labor more abundant than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me." Tremendous statement. What he was by God's grace. What he did it by God's grace. And so the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. The Lord directs. He does it in rather peculiar ways at times. Human reasoning, human reckoning is ousted, and the Lord directs so often differently from what we do and what we think. So the Lord, he directs. There's something very encouraging in this text. The Lord delights. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. And that would seem to indicate that the Lord delights himself in the way that we take. And we want to say to Edwin and to Alison indeed this evening that not only is the Lord directing, but the Lord delights in their way. This psalm has words like commit thyself to the Lord, rest in the Lord, trust in the Lord. And when that is done, the Lord just not only directs our steps, but the Lord delights in our steps. One paraphrase has it, the Lord is always busy in our interests. I think that's a tremendous statement. The Lord is always busy in our interests. I was reading the other day about 1 Peter, when in 1 Peter 1, the AV talks about casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. And J.B. Phillips, Edwin was fed up listening to J.B. Phillips from Magherafelt. He's a great favourite of mine. I think it's wonderful at paraphrasing things for us. And J.B. Phillips has this to say. He says, you can throw the whole weight of your anxieties upon him, for you are his personal concern. And I want to say to Edwin, he knows it well, but just to reiterate and reinforce it in his mind, the Lord has his interests, has his concerns very much at heart. So this evening, we want to pay tribute to the work that Edwin has done in Abbey Street here in Coleraine, and thank God that the Lord has led him thus far. I know that he owes a great debt of gratitude to his parents that we respected greatly in Magherafelt. And I'm sure that his mum is very happy this evening. And we trust that as the days go by, those of us who are getting older will know that Edwin has settled in well to college life and that the Lord has blessed him real good. So to Edwin and to Alison, we give our congratulations. We want to pay our tributes to the work you've done and to the work that we believe you will yet do. And I trust that he will take these scriptures upon his heart and remember that the Lord directs, but the Lord delights in us, those of us who are his children. May God bless the family. And we pray that the church here will be guided in days to come. Thank you.